Hello and welcome to this video. In this video we've got a special guest on today. I'm going to let her introduce herself. But the idea of this video is we're going to look at the difference between QuickBooks Online and one of its major competitors. So let's see which one is best for our clients. Stay tuned. Hello, my name is Aaron Patrick. I'm a Chartered Accountant, Certified UK Trainer, and also that QuickBooks Chap. And today here at Boffix, we have a brilliant video installed for you. Our idea is to make sure that you understand which software provider is best for your particular business. And to do that, we've brought in a heavyweight of the accounting world, and we made sure that we're not just the only person talking about it, but also we want to make sure that the other side has a fair representation as well. So I'm going to introduce to you a brand new person to the channel who's going to be talking to you exactly about how that particular software that they're fighting and flying that flag for, and our job is to make sure QuickBooks is the right one for you. So stay tuned for that. Give a little introduction to yourself and then let us know exactly why you're flying the flag today for your software.
Hi everybody, my name's Rachel. I am the founder of ACCOUNTANCY. We're a female-led accountancy firm who specialise in working with women in business and influencers. So I'm in the blue corner today, advocating for Xero, and I'll be going against Aaron, who's in the green corner, who is saying why he loves QuickBooks.
Definitely. So, I mean, they do share a lot of similarities, don't they? Let's get that one over and done with first. So when it comes to cloud technology and the idea of using cloud and this whole idea of, you know, not having to install anything, what is the major benefits do you see? What have you seen your clients so far getting from cloud technology?
So I think the reason the QuickBooks versus, say, I'm so sorry. I think the reason that the QuickBooks versus Xero question comes up so frequently is because they are so similar. And I think the reason Sage almost isn't included in this conversation is because Xero and QuickBooks are completely cloud-based, and for small businesses, having access to all of their accounting data on the internet, on their phone, is just ultimately so powerful and so valuable for small business owners. So being out at a client, being able to send the invoice before they've left and make sure that everything's okay. So yeah, just having everything at their fingertips all the time is just fantastic. And again, yeah, the reason this question comes up so frequently is because Xero and QuickBooks are very similar.
They are, aren't they? And what I tell to clients as well, and I'm sure you're exactly the same, is that whole power of being able to look at the client's data as well. I don't know about you, but during this time, and it's been awful time, hasn't it, with the way we're trying to support our clients as much as we can. We're trying to give clients that you know, hug, basically, that virtual hug during these times. But having that ability to quickly jump into their data mid-conversation, you could be on a conversation with a client about something completely different, but having that ability as an accountant just to jump into the data, see what's going on, is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, we have a complete oversight all the time of all of our clients. So even just from in both QuickBooks and Xero, to have the oversight of all of your clients in one go. You know, if one client's normally really hot on getting their bank reconciled, and you can see from the snapshot overview that they've got sort of 40 or 50 unreconciled transactions, you just pick up the phone and say, is everything okay? Can I help you? What's going on? And actually that just, you're like a little guardian angel for your clients, because you've got oversight of what's happening in real time, all of your clients in one place, and it's just fantastic. And to be able to give that back to a client and say, here's the tools that you need to get on with your business and keep everything up to date, but we're here, we can see what you're doing, we can keep an eye on you and make sure you're okay. It's fantastic, because you're empowering them and giving them control over their financial information, but you're also there to help them pick them up when they need it. And that's amazing. That's, you know, what more can you ask for as an accountant and as a client? It's great.
Definitely. And now with that, it's time to get the gloves off. Now, we've been nice about it to each other, and we've both been talking about how great the two softwares are, but let's really deep dive into some of those extra special secret sauces that each one go with. And when it comes to cloud accounting, I say this a lot on this channel, but it's all about that bank connection and how important that bank connection can be to you and your business. So what we're going to look at now is we're going to go in and we're going to look at the two different banking side of things and we're going to let Rachel kick it off, and we're going to see exactly how Xero is brilliant at dealing with the bank. Rachel, go on then, explain to me exactly why Xero is so good at handling with the bank transactions. Go for it.
Okay, so the first thing is that for both softwares, for Xero and QuickBooks, automatic bank feeds were a complete game changer for the accounting industry. So without getting too technical, it's really important to know that as a client, you can connect your bank. Most high street banks and most online banks are integrated into both softwares, and you can tie in your online bank transactions into your accounting software. So as you can see on the screen, they pull through automatically. So again, I'm trying not to get too accountancy. There's two sides to every transaction, and by connecting your bank feed into your accounting software, half of that is already done already. Your accounting software is pulling through from your bank account one side of the transactions, so the only bit of work that you need to do is to actually tell your software in which pots and in which categories that money and that expenditure and income needs to go. Again, with both Xero and QuickBooks, they both use AI to remember, to learn, and to forecast exactly where those transactions are going to go. So the top two transactions here are amazing. They're green. Xero has seen the spent category. It's seen some money go out on one side, and it already knows you've spent this money with the bank line has come in with a supplier's name and an amount, and Xero has looked inside the back end of your Xero and seen that you have a supplier with an invoice outstanding with the same reference and the same amount, and it is suggesting that you click OK and match them off. So you can click OK, match them off, and then just move on to your next one. Again, very similarly, you've received some money on a certain date from a certain customer, and Xero has acknowledged that you've also got a sales invoice outstanding due around the same date of the same amount, and it's picked it up, matched them off, and is suggesting. Again, they are just suggestions. So if you're a client and you're thinking, well, that's great, but I have loads of Mrs. Smiths and all of my invoices are for £200, Xero will just suggest, and you can overwrite it and make changes to that at any time. It's not like loads of that. I have to like backtrack and go through that. Again, with things like bank charges, transactions that happen all the time, once you've done them once, Xero, QuickBooks does this too, Xero will know that you've done it next time and suggest it again. Another great feature, which I'm not sure, does QuickBooks have a feature to discuss items with your accountant?
We'll come on to it when we get there, but yeah, carry on. Keep firing these shots.
Throwing some shade in Aaron's corner. Okay, yeah, so we absolutely love this feature. Clients love this feature. We have a discuss tab. So if you're a client, you've had your training with your accountant, and you actually still can't work out, either you've forgotten what it was, you can't find it, you've forgotten how to do it, or it's just a Monday morning and you can't work out how to do it, in the discuss tab, you can click in there, I've got no idea what's going on, please help me. And your accountant can log in and see those notes. So the downside, there's one downside to this feature, is that a lot of people just type their notes and move on. You actually have to click save. A lot of people forget to do that, so they'll write a paragraph to their accountant and wonder why they're being ignored. So you have to click save. A lot of the online forums are full of like protests to get that removed. They're not all me, but it's a lot of people forget to click save, so that's an important note. But yeah, so Xero uses a lot of AI, it remembers, it forecasts, and it predicts where you're going to go. So if you are a small business that has a lot of recurring transactions, I would say that within a month's worth of transactions, if you had 50 bank transactions within a month, a lot of people are only having to like manually code 4 or 5 of those transactions to one-off suppliers, or people, if it comes up as like Amazon and actually you buy quite a lot of different things on Amazon, you might have to like manually code what that was, because Xero would struggle to predict that. But I'd say on average, if you're a client that has a normal amount of transactions, maybe 40 or 50 a month, you'd probably only be looking to manually code 4 or 5 transactions. But I think that's it from me, Aaron, unless you've got anything to add.
No, but I'm going to hold you to that 4 or 5 transactions. I think that's.
Oh, no.
I'm going to hold you to that number as we carry on through today. So you've heard it here first, everyone. If you use Xero, you only have to code 4 or 5 transactions at any point in time. So we'll see how that goes along. But no, look, we're going to go through this and we're going to look at what's best and what's right for our clients. And that, we've said this already. The most important thing is making sure from our client's point of view that we get this right. You know, clients and you guys as business owners, you've got to make sure that you find the software that works for you. And definitely with the banking screen here, this definitely has a way of tuning into a particular type of client. So the way that this, and what I like about this, is it's very much, you can't get this wrong. When we go into QuickBooks, there's a few little bits where I'm having to tell people on a regular basis, please do this, please do that, otherwise it's not going to work. Whereas in the Xero point and the Xero camp, it is very much a case of, as long as you go through and look at all these different transactions and you deal with these transactions as they go through, it's as simple as that and it's as straightforward as that. And I like that whole mentality of get the transactions in. Those transactions, Xero is going to try and help you as much as it possibly can with them. But ultimately, you just need to clear this one reconcile button on this one reconcile page, and then you should have all your transactions in there. And I think that's quite powerful, isn't it? The way that it's built that way around.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think in terms of like training clients who have never used accountancy software before, it's very straightforward to say, like, go to this tab, all of these transactions. This is your weekly task, is to log in on a Monday morning, diarize it so you don't forget, log in on a Monday, clear all the transactions down. If you keep up to date with it, you'll only ever be, it's going to be the last week, so you'll always remember what it was. This is your task. Keep it as low as possible, and just remember that if you're going into Xero and you're running reports, those reports will only ever be as up to date as your bank account. That's super, super easy and straightforward to be able to train people on like how to just nail their accounts. You're also absolutely right in terms of, I would say this almost counts as like a dopamine hit. The way Xero has set up their bank reconciliation makes it incredibly satisfying to reconcile it, and everything goes green, and like when you're finished you get a great job. So you literally get a dopamine hit. Most people aren't as lame as me, maybe they don't, but I get a dopamine hit like every time I click OK, and then it comes up with great job at the end. It's very straightforward, it's very simple, and like you say, it's I don't want to say you can't go wrong, but it's very, very straightforward.
I mean, QuickBooks got a lot to fight for now. We've got only 4 or 5 transactions on Xero, and actually you get a dopamine hit as well. So I'm a little bit worried. I'm starting to sweat in my corner at this point in time. So we've learned quite a lot about Xero so far, and we've understood exactly how that banking screen looks. So let's remind ourselves what QuickBooks has to offer, and then what we can do then is start to compare and contrast. Okay then, Rachel, so we're going to have a look now at the QuickBooks side of things, and we're going to understand exactly what the banking screen is. Now, as opposed to Xero, I must admit the banking screen is a little bit more complicated and there's a little bit more going on here. But once you get your head around it, it is relatively straightforward and also starts to get really satisfying, like you've already said, in terms of having that ability to get that nice big green tick to say that job's done. So example number 1 is on this particular bank account, I get that wonderful green tick, that wonderful green element to say that I've done everything right here and that I've got everything in place and I'm good to go. And we've always talked about on this channel about how we want to make sure that we're getting all that data in as much as possible, as quickly as, and on top of the data as much as we can. Because the more data we have in any system, the more we're going to get out of it in the long term. So with the data that's coming through, just like on the Xero aspect of things, we're going to connect a bank account up and it's going to start showing us the transactions. But it shows us in a different format. The format here is it's basically telling us in these 3 tabs: for review, categorize, and excluded. And our main job is to make sure that every item that's in the for review tab, that's the one that basically QuickBooks knows that there's some transactions there, we want to make sure that that information is put into either the categorize tab or the excluded tab. And that's what our aim is to do. We want to get that information into one of those 2 categories, or one of those 2 tabs. Now, if we're moving to the excluded tab, we're saying that we don't want that information there. Very rare, but that could be because there's been an error or an issue or some reason why you don't want that information in. But our main job is to get everything into categorized. And just like on Xero, the idea of that is that we're putting information in and we're basically saying what that information relates to. So one of the key differences to the way that QuickBooks is approaching it to the way Xero is, yes, we've got to clear this screen, but we don't have that kind of that table view, if you like, of having what's on the left hand side is what's in the bank, and what's on the right hand side is where we're going to. We have to drill down into our transactions here, and we have to bring each transaction and deal with them in that way. So, for example, if I wanted to deal with this transaction here, this deposit, then I click into the transaction, and it opens up and it gives me my information there. So that's when I can start doing exactly the same as what we've been talking about. Just like on Xero, it starts learning, it uses that AI, it starts bringing that information in for me. So we're very similar in terms of that. And one thing you did tell me was, well, how do I tell my accountant that there's an issue or there's a problem? Well, in QuickBooks, the way they deal with it is tags. So tags is a brand new feature in QuickBooks where we get to basically tag a transaction for discoverability reasons. So what we can do there is we can say that I want my accountant to look at this and I want to make sure my accountant's got the VAT right. And you can give any type of tag you need to any typical transaction. But the idea is then that you're telling your accountant or you're telling someone else in your firm or you're telling your business partner, whoever it needs to be, that they really should look at this transaction, or it's a transaction you need to find at a later date. So we have that ability to bring in there. And then the only other difference I find on here is that you then have to deal with a transaction in a logical sense. So you've got to decide, are you categorizing it? So is this a transaction that you've never put on QuickBooks before? And do you then need to put it in the information that it needs to require to post that transaction? So do you need to say what it was for, who you paid, or what the VAT was, and all those different aspects that we need to think about on a transaction by transactional basis? Or do we want to find a match? So if QuickBooks hasn't quite found the particular transaction that's already in QuickBooks, you can force it to find it and bring it in from there. So it's achieving the same solution, but it's looking at it in a completely different way. Now, one thing that I would say has an advantage from the QuickBooks, and I'm happy for you to argue with me here and tell me I'm wrong, but the one thing I would say is, yes, I think this screen here can be a little bit more complicated in terms of just that simplicity of dealing with the bank, that whole aspect of you've got to move everything from for review to categorized. And sometimes I found clients who have kind of left everything on the screen and not realized they've had to do that one step further to actually get it into QuickBooks. So I completely see that, and I can see that as being something that Xero definitely has a more elegant solution, if you like, in terms of dealing with the bank. But one thing I would highly point out, though, that I find QuickBooks has a slight advantage is this whole aspect of reconciling a bank. Now, it's a contentious topic. It's one as accountants we talk about on a regular basis, reconciling this, reconciling that. But in terms of you as a business owner, what it means and what it's important to you is just having confidence in those figures. So here, just like on Xero, we can see that we've got £1,046.56 in our bank and £1,046.56 in QuickBooks. So our bank balance is agreeing to our QuickBooks, and in theory, that's perfect. We shouldn't have to go any further. We should have no issues. And that's where Xero is really good as well, because it will tell you that the bank balance and the Xero balance match, and we should be okay. But it doesn't give us that ability to go one step further, and that's where I really do like the aspect of having this ability to just go in and reconcile the bank. So what you're saying is, I have a physical bank statement in front of me. Here we are, trusted bank statement in front of me. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that bank statement agrees to what's in QuickBooks. So I literally go in and I reconcile it by going through the transactions and finding if there's any issues or any problems. And QuickBooks is really good at telling me if I've done something wrong and come from there. What do you think to that, Rachel?
I was actually just going to jump back to your Revolut account, where there's a green tick that says it's all up to date, but there is a difference. And I was just wondering if you could talk to the audience about what that means and how that would happen.
Wow. Okay, so shots fired straight away.
Yay!
And you're absolutely right. So whereas on the Xero one, we can't have that green tick because it will just physically, it won't let you do that. In this, or in QuickBooks itself, you do have the option of being able to, let's say, be creative in the way that you're putting bank transactions in. And it is definitely something that's caught a lot of people out. And it's one of those bits where people are definitely having to consider which accounting software is right for them, depending on the way they work and the way that they deal with transactions. Now, if you only ever consist or care about transactions going into your bank and they're the only ones you're ever going to deal with, you're absolutely fine. But like on this case, where we might have had a client who may have put in their own transaction, or they may have edited a transaction, or they've gone through and they've made an adjustment later down the line, this can throw out the balances on here. And even though the two items, the tick here is only telling us at this point that we've dealt with all of those categorized transactions, it's not telling us that our balances are the same. So you're right, that is one where clients do find really not a frustration, but they do find it as a pitfall in when they're using QuickBooks. And that whole idea that, well, I've dealt with all the transactions, so why do I not have a balance? Hence why the bank reconciliation is so important.
Yeah, I think in Xero's favor, as soon as you log into Xero, it's giving you your task list. So it's showing you what your unreconciled transactions are straight from the dashboard. Whereas in QuickBooks, it's actually quite easy to log in and ignore unreconciled transactions. Like you have to go to the tab on the left hand side. Like it's like 2 clicks to get into your banking screen. Whereas Xero like almost won't let you pass the first screen without reminding you that you've got items to reconcile and you've got like tasks to complete. So from a client and an accountant point of view, it's very straightforward in order to like push people and prompt people to know what their responsibilities are.
Yeah, and I think you've put it absolutely spot on there. And the ability when you first go in there to be just from that dashboard, and we talk about this dashboard so much on this channel about how important it is. But you're right, it just smacks you directly in that face. It tells you, let's get that done. And in fairness to QuickBooks, we get the same call to action, but the opportunity there of being able to, like you say, miss that is much more prevalent in the QuickBooks world. All right, I feel like a slight advantage to Xero there, only slightly. I mean, I'm not gonna go too far, but there's a slight advantage to Xero there. But let's think about the next stage. So the next stage that I want to bring up now is the mobile experience and how important, how useful that mobile experience is to our clients at this moment in time. So let's have a look and see, or at least talk about, what that mobile experience is and how they differentiate between the two different platforms.
Okay, I'm gonna score an own goal here. But when I'm using, so we use Xero internally for our accounts, and when I have to use Xero on my phone, I actually use it on Safari because I much prefer the web experience to the app. So in terms of mobile experience, it comes down to preference, but I prefer to use the mobile web version than the mobile app on Xero. I think it gives you much better functionality. I think when you're going from desktop or web to the app, you actually lose quite a lot of functions, where on QuickBooks, I think going from web to your phone can actually enhance a lot of the options. So being able to take pictures of receipts directly into QuickBooks, things like that, I think is enhanced, whereas I actually think some of the really, really good juicy bits of Xero are actually lost when you use it on the app. So we actually, if it was me and I'm doing my bank rec on my phone, I would actually use a web browser to access Xero. So I feel like I've scored an own goal there, but I'll let you have a look, Aaron.
Well, it's become more and more prevalent when it comes to the mobile experience and how the mobile works with any accounting software. And that's because, less relevant now that we're kind of all stuck indoors at this moment in time. But in normal day-to-day circumstances, that ability to go out there and be able to deal with transactions when you're there, when you can be on the train or you could be sat for a coffee or whatever it's going to be, is really powerful. And where I'm really liking the fact, or the one that the bit I'm trying to drill home to a lot of accountants out there who are listening, as opposed to you guys as business owners as well, but it's that whole point where more and more prevalent to us is that clients are just using that mobile app. They are watching I'm a Celebrity on TV. They're seeing that advert coming up. They're downloading the app there and then, and they never once will go into the browser experience that me and Rachel really love and we use on a regular basis on both platforms. But they are running their whole business, everything about their business, and successful businesses at that, just by using their mobile phone. So that whole idea, that whole aspect of making sure that that mobile experience works for people is important. And I think that's where QuickBooks really do have a great understanding of. They've put some great features in there lately, like the ability to do mileage tracking and the ability to take a photo of a receipt and it just magically appears in the solution. So I think little features like that are just making that mobile experience more useful. So I think that might be a slight victory, Okay, quite a big victory for QuickBooks on that one. But let's keep it nice and fair, and let's say that we're equal pegging into the next round. How's that?
Yeah, good shout.
Okay, Rachel, we're going to throw a bit of a spanner into the works now, and we're going to go through innovation, and we're going to talk about basically what QuickBooks and Xero have brought to the table over the last 6 months, a year, whatever it's going to be. And we're going to understand exactly what innovation has come to the product and how it's benefited, more importantly, you as a business owner. So, Rachel, it's over to you. What has what Xero, should I say, brought to the table that you find has been a real innovation?
Okay, so number one, I think for this year would be the business snapshot function, which can help small businesses to forecast their tax, help their tax planning. It gives them a whole dashboard of financial metrics that make it really, really easy to compare profit and loss, turnover, expenses, and like different efficiencies during different periods. So I'd say for us, that's been a really big change. Again, it was a very timely change in line with coronavirus. So being able to give business owners that visibility, that oversight. Some clients don't like it; it's a bit too much, and they'd rather leave that sort of stuff to us. But a lot of clients have found it really, really valuable, especially. So I run ACCOUNTANCY. It's an Instagram platform. I work with a lot of clients that run on Instagram platforms, or like they sell on Etsy and have lots of like Shopify accounts, and actually being able to track different products, different revenue streams, different profitability metrics all in one place is super, super helpful for them. I'd say the second thing again is the short-term cash flow update that was released. It's now been extended. It was released as a pilot, but it's been extended, and it actually visually projects your bank balance 30 days into the future, showing the impact on existing bills and invoices. If they're all paid on time, what impact that would have on your cash flow. So I'd say the short-term cash flow add-on has been amazing. Again, during coronavirus, it's been a fantastic feature that's really helped to give the small business owner a lot of control, calm a lot of anxiety. I think that's been the biggest thing this year. It's just anxiety. Everybody's anxious, and actually to be able to have those business insights and to be able to forecast your cash flow 30 days in advance. And actually, 2020 has been about, can we just get through the next 30 days? And as a small business owner, that's okay. So being able to use that feature to your advantage and really look at, are we going to be okay for the next 30 days? It's been a really, really valuable add-on. So very, very timely releases from Xero. So I would say the business snapshot and short-term cash flow are probably the top two releases of this year for me.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely spot on. I can't believe the timing of, and it's both companies. A bit of a spoiler alert. There's a cash flow forecast that I'm about to showcase.
It's like they knew it was going to happen.
That's it, isn't it? They knew, didn't they? But actually,
conspiracy theory.
Let's get those silver hats on. But actually, just pushing away from the curtain a bit. I was speaking to Intuit and QuickBooks about it, and they actually pushed it forward. So it wasn't due to, they weren't looking to release this anytime soon. It was going to be something they were going to build up, and it was going to be probably next year's release. But they and same with Xero, the reason they released it was because the need of the clients and the need of the small businesses at that point. And that's really reassuring, isn't it, from both parties? I mean, Absolutely. At the end of the day, they've both got the same kind of mantra and the same realization that it's all about helping the small business, isn't it? So, it's great that both of them have had that point. And I love the business snapshot. It's one of my really favorite bits about Xero at the moment, about that ability just to have that quick little, okay, let's have some talking points. Let's talk to you about actual figures that make sense to you and understanding that you can help. So, yeah, I think you've got that absolutely spot on.
I would say one final thing I'm going to bring up, just because I loved it, was Xero ran a special offer this year for the month of September, which was if you took out Xero in September, you got a free coffee machine, a free pair of headphones, or a printer. It was a printer, headphones, or a coffee machine if you took out Xero in September of this year, which I thought was amazing. And I was trying to persuade all of my clients to do it and give me the coffee machine. No one did, but that for me was like deal breaker of the year.
That is a bit of a game changer, really, isn't it? The whole idea of getting a coffee machine. I mean, it should really come hand in hand with your bookkeeping, shouldn't it? That you get a coffee.
100%.
So highly, highly recommend. Okay, Let's jump on to QuickBooks and their innovation. Now, I can't top a coffee machine. That is a bar too high for me, unfortunately. But it is, first of all, very, very similar to what Rachel just said in terms of those innovations. As I said, that cash flow forecast that came into QuickBooks only the beginning of, or during lockdown, shall I say, has been so crucial to clients. It's been one of our biggest talking points. Every time we're having a conversation with a client, we always bring up their cash flow forecast. We always look at that 90-day projection. More than anything, to get an understanding that these are accurate, that these are something that we, because both in Xero and in QuickBooks, they are classed as betas, they're classed as, in progress. There are bits that we know we need to make sure we're happy with. And as I've said a lot during these videos, it's all going to be down to how up to date your data is and how reliant your data is before any of this will be useful. But it is great to have that ability just to look and see what they project as your 90-day turnover, 90-day cash flow going to be, what to look at, and then having that ability to add scenarios in. So furlough, extended furlough, flexible furlough, all of those conversation topics we've been having with clients, just having a little tool like this can be an absolute lifesaver. So I completely agree. I think the cash flow planner has been huge. Again, like they've been talking to one another and they've actually been developing this in tandem. We have a performance center that was also released, and also something that, again, just as Rachel's been saying, is a great tool to be able to have that conversation topic and be able to talk and go through. But the other two that I think has been big is, and I've spoke about one of them already, was that whole tagging solution. So you can tag and then find discoverability. So the ability to go in, have a look at my tags and just go, look, I've got all these items that I need to look at in more detail for my client, or my client wants me to look at it in a certain way. So just as discoverability point of view, I find that really powerful. And then they've also brought in the receipt capture as well. So the idea here is you take a photo on your phone of a bill, and then you go in and it will record that transaction. Now, I know Xero has a very similar option to this using one of its third parties, but having it just built directly into the software into QuickBooks has been really powerful. And then one final one is the new self-assessment estimate as well. We've been finding this really useful. Just be able to have that conversation topic with clients, just be able to talk to them about the fact that we have this ability to go in there and really understand what your tax bill is likely to be. So powerful going forward. So with that one, I mean, it's too hard to tell, really, isn't it? I think maybe we get a draw on that one, as both of them were singing along the same hymn sheets. And in fairness, the other innovations that have been brought in are kind of like for like in each one. Okay, then. So with that, pretty much sums up the kind of main key points. Is there anything else from a Xero point of view that you want to showcase, bring in, or talk about, or show off?
I think the biggest comparison and the biggest question we get asked is the biggest one for small business owners, which is price. I'm sure you have a lot to say because QuickBooks generally comes under the line on price. And you might not get a coffee machine, but you could probably buy a couple of extra coffees if you went QuickBooks rather than Xero. So today's date is the 10th of November 2020, just in case you're watching this in the future. That was weird. Okay, so at the moment, there's 3 different packages. We've got Starter, Standard, and Premium. Starter, a lot of clients find this very, very restrictive. We generally wouldn't put somebody on the Starter package. It's limited to only being able to send 20 invoices and quotes, enter 5 bills, and I think you're limited on actually how many transactions you have a month. So we normally would put people onto the Standard package, which means that you can have unlimited users, which is great for adding colleagues, staff, your accountant. So unlimited users. You can send invoices and quotes straight from the app. You can enter bills. You can connect all of your bank transactions and submit. So the Standard package basically for Xero covers everything apart from multiple currencies, and then that's where you would need Premium, which is £30 a month. So the basic Standard package that most small businesses would go on, we're currently looking at £24 a month for Xero.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well. I think we'll see this when we come to the QuickBooks, but this tier system is very much kind of in line with every kind of service provider and software solution out there. But I'm the one, I'm basically who aim this sort of solution for, because I'm that person who goes through each one and I'm looking at which sweeties I don't get on each one. So for me, I'm always trying to figure out, am I actually better off being in the higher mode and going from there? And I'm trying to fall in that same trap as well. It is difficult, or in fact, let's get this right. From a Xero point of view, it's far more simple to pick which version you're on. As you've said, most of the time you kind of discount that starter and you just got to decide between standard and premium. But it is kind of that one extra step for them, isn't it, to make sure. But how easy is it from a Xero point of view to jump between them if you need to?
Oh, very, very easy. So as long as you have, I think it's administrator rights within Xero, you can change your package. So if actually you are a sole business owner and you decide that you need to pop yourself on payroll, or you take on some staff and you need to actually upgrade, I think you get 3 months free payroll. But if you do decide that you need to add on payroll to your package, you can literally do it straight from your app. You don't need to call them. You don't need to do anything else. You can do it straight from the app. So it's very straightforward.
Definitely. And when it comes to QuickBooks, then, unfortunately, we get a lot more of a complicated and difficult conversation because, yes, we have those free tiers, just like we talked about in Xero. So we do have this ability to talk about a simple start instead of standard, essentials and plus. But also, just to throw another bit into the mix, is self-assessment as well. So QuickBooks Self-Employed, which is a completely standalone product, is also out there. And we found this to be really confusing for clients. We've had a lot of clients who just went on the self-employed one because that's the first one that popped up and it looked more competitive on price, but it isn't really designed for their business. I bet you found the same, haven't you, Rachel?
100%. I think the self-employed model is really, really clunky, and I think actually QuickBooks are almost selling themselves out because people just then have a bad experience with QuickBooks, and actually it's just that they're not putting clients in touch with the right products. And I think they to streamline this process would give them a lot of benefits.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the disadvantages if you jump on self-employed to begin with is you then can't move yourself over to the full version of QuickBooks easily either, which again, Rachel's already said it's just they've just shot themselves in the foot there. But when it comes to prices, Simple Start starts at £12 on a normal basis, but there's always some discounts out there. And then it goes up to £20 for essentials and £30 for plus. So you are looking at pretty much the same price point. The only thing I would say though is that the Simple Start is far less of a restriction than it is from a Xero point of view. So there's none of this having to only be able to do so many transactions and everything else. What it does limit you though is just extra functionality. So as you start going up the scale, you start adding up more sweeties, more toys, and you start looking at it more on a accrual basis. But for most of our kind of cash-based simplistic clients, you'll actually find that the Simple Start and the Simple Start is pretty much okay for them. And as Rachel said in Xero, it's the same here. We just get to add on and upgrade you as simply as your time goes on, and it's seamless. Or literally, you start paying that extra tier, and all those extra features come your way. So I do feel like there is kind of really advantages in that in the cash element of it as well. And also, just like in with Xero and with QuickBooks, talk to your accountants, talk to Rachel, talk to myself about different pricing structures because we get access to preferential rates and we can pass those savings on to you guys as well. So that's the pricing point, and I really like the idea of bringing in the pricing and going forward. But it wouldn't be right for me if I didn't bring in one of the extra steps as well. And, I'm a little bit biased on this one because I am a certified trainer with QuickBooks themselves. So, this may be a little bit of an unfair talk here. But Rachel, go through with me and tell me the training offer from Xero themselves.
Oh, good question. So we actually, within our practice, we offer a free one-to-one training session with all clients on any software. So we actually bypass this quite frequently in order to just really bespoke the training to the client, their company, and exactly what they need. So we actually zip past this quite a lot. However, in terms of what Xero offer, there's a whole range, there's a whole training center, what's available to you as a small business owner. And it varies in detail from a 1-hour whistle-stop tour of what Xero is, how to use it, and how to nail it, all the way down to they have some really, really in-depth courses and training sessions that you can do on really specific things. So if you're a small business and you've just become VAT registered and you just want to have a really quick session on how do I make the change, how do I tell Xero that I'm VAT registered, all the way through to actually running and filing a VAT return from Xero. There's lots of really, really, really good bits that you can jump in and out of. This does, however, raise one of my downsides of Xero, which is actually Xero support. So again, having an accountant that is a certified advisor is, I would say, actually becoming more and more important for whatever software you have. So I'm sure Aaron's exactly the same. Like, we never charge clients for asking questions. We don't charge for our time. We'll just jump on Zoom, do a quick screen share, and solve the problem and firefight for them. It's in our interest to do that. However, if you were using Xero on your own and didn't have someone to call, contacting Xero is actually very difficult and can take quite a long time. So you can't call Xero. They don't have an online chat. You can only, I think this is right, Aaron, you can actually only email them at the moment. I don't know if that's changed. Yeah, so you can actually only email Xero, which it's just not great, and it's a bit outdated. I know it's because they're not a UK-based company, and like, there's a whole list of reasons they don't offer it as a service, and actually they invest that money into training accountants instead. But it can actually be a really big barrier, and I think for me, if I was a user, it might actually put me off.
Yeah, but I think you reached the nail on the head there. You have to find someone like yourself, or myself, and have that support network, have that ability to be able to talk to them. Because one of the advantages of turning to people like ourselves is the fact that we know your business as well. So, when you ask Rachel exactly what your problem is Xero, she's going to know from your point of view as a business owner how to deal with that and go from there. So you can see the advantage there. But yeah, that it's one of those things where, from a training point of view and a support point of view, it's not as strong. And talking about training and supporting, I will toot the QuickBooks horn on this one. So when it comes to the training solution, they have massive amount of training. So from webinars to support to actual exams and to qualifications, and to be able to make sure that you've got every aspect from it as well. And then, as Rachel talked on about support as well, we've got the opportunity to call an actual real person. So if I jump into any file, up in the help section, you actually get to ask the question from anyone directly from here. So you can ask a little chat and actually talk to the person, and it's a real person as well, because sometimes you even get their camera popping up if you need to, and it's not a robot that's talking there, but you also get to phone them and go through from there. But from training support, there is lots and lots of details on there and lots of opportunities. And also, you've got content on YouTube as well. So you've got people like myself. There's other people out there doing content as well. I know, Rachel, you're going to be starting to do content, aren't you, on businesses? So,
Yes,
that's a bit of a plug.
Yeah, so accountancy, we are segueing into the YouTube space, just some value, and to really, really get across what accountants are, what we do, and just the face behind the companies that support small businesses.
Yeah, and we definitely will be supporting that as well here at Boffix, because I think that's what it's all about. We want to make sure as many people get eyes on that content as they can. But that's pretty much it then from when it comes to QuickBooks versus Xero. I think we'll kind of say that there is a let's call it a draw begrudgingly. I mean, I don't really want to call it a draw, but let's put my pride to side for 1 second and let's call it a draw. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a lot of clients, it just comes down to either preference or finding the right software that matches and resonates with their business the best. And again, finding accountants like Aaron or me are really, really important to help you make that decision, and to take a lot of that stress away from you.
Definitely 100%. Well, Rachel, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much for coming along and talking and fighting that fight for Xero. It was a hard fought battle in the end, and I think you did well. You did Xero proud. They could be proud to have you fighting their corner going forward. So really appreciate you coming in and coming along and talking us through.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem whatsoever. And with that, we're going to end this one here, but do stick around for more content like this, and then hopefully we'll be able to come and give you content just like this for your business. Stay tuned. And there we have it, a nice little insight into Xero versus QuickBooks. Now, as we said at the beginning of this video, one thing to remember is that the most important thing is you as a business gets the right one. So even though we're going through and we've told you kind of ins and outs of each individual software, what they have to offer and everything that's in between, do remember you still need to take into account everything that a software has to offer. And do make sure you get this right, because it's going to be so important to you and your business, and making sure that you've got the information you need to understand exactly how your business is operating. It's been great to have Rachel on as well, so make sure you do give her a like, follow, and I'll make sure all her social links are below, and keep an eye out for her content on YouTube as well, coming very soon. QuickBooks versus Xero, it's a fight that we will keep on looking at and keep on understanding, but hopefully you've got a bit of an insight now into exactly how that works. My name has been Aaron Patrick. It's been an absolute pleasure to do this video. Again, big thank you, big shout out to Rachel at Accountancy, and I will see you in the next video. Hello and thank you for watching that video. What you may not know is this channel that you've watched this video from is part of a wider group. That wider group is called Apple Core Production, and the 3 channels that we have involved are as follows: Aaron Patrick, the QuickBooks Chap, Boffix Tax Tip. Finally, we have Apple Core Live and Geeky. All the links and everything are down below in the description, but it really means a lot to us if you can go and give a like to the other channels as well.